There's a box of white priest's collars in the closet.
Well, you never know when a priest's collar will come in handy.
Gabriel is carrying a priest's shirt and collar which, surprise, surprise, do not belong to him. There is no reason to open the shirt and collar. Inside the collar is a message. Open quote. Lit starch plus. Close quote. What could that mean? Gabriel. It appears that Madame Lorelei has returned.
You're back. You know, you really freaked me out running off like that. Yoo-hoo! Anybody home?
Stay away from Morgan, or you shall pay with your life.
What the hell is going on?
It looks like the lecture is just starting. Gabriel decides to record the session.
Voodoo is the tribal religion of Africa, but the name Voodoo is actually a banner heading under which resides an entire body of distinct tribal belief systems. The word voodoo may sound familiar to you. What is known in the States as voodoo is actually an amalgamation of African religious systems, voodoo, and European religions, primarily Catholicism. All of the subcults of African voodoo have certain things in common. The most important is the worship of a pantheon of spirits instead of the single deity that the Christian and Muslim systems had. Some of these spirits are elementals. Some relate to specific tasks or places. Some represent important tribal leaders who have died. This spirit worship is what makes voodoo so easily adaptable. With all those spirits, it's no problem to add a few more. Say, for example, the Virgin Mary. At the height of tribal Africa, warfare was common. One tribe would conquer another, and the Loa, important in the conqueror's tribal system, would be adopted readily into the conquered tribe's Loa pantheon. In this way, many of the voodoo cults spread and mingled throughout tribal Africa, enriching the belief system and causing innumerable offshoots. The basis for the voodoo religion seems to be as old as man himself. It has much in common with many early pagan practices: animal totems, sympathetic magic, elemental spirits in the trees, the heavens. bodies of the sick. Africa is believed by many to be the cradle of the human race. Some of the voodoo Loa may be as old as the Garden of Eden itself. We still can't explain some of the real power of these primal religions. And note, I said primal, not primitive. There are African Bokors who baffle our scientists with their supernatural powers. Now, let's discuss the elements of voodoo.
Fascinating guy.
In voodoo, the spirits are called the Loa. During a voodoo ceremony, celebrants are possessed by the Loa, and this is called being ridden. The human worshipper is seen as a horse, and the Loa as the divine horseman. A person being ridden by a Loa takes on the characteristics of that spirit and becomes, in effect, merely a vessel for the more powerful entity. Some of the older original Africa Loa include Dambala, the great serpent god, Ezruli, the mistress of love, Papa Nebo or Gede, the lord of death, Agwe, the spirit of water, Legba, spirit of the crossroads, and the cruelest and most dangerous, Ogun Badagri, the lord of destruction.
Ugh. Oh, I gotta get more sleep at night.
Tribe-specific Loa can have as much or more power as the more widely worshipped Loa. For instance, a particular tribe might revere highly the Loa of an ancestor who was a legendary hunter or politician. Voodoo temples are called Hounfors. Their priests, Hangun or Bokors. Their priestesses, Mama Loa. In a voodoo Hounfor, there's a ritual circle marked by a center pole called a poto mitan. The ritual circle is prepared with a veve, a pattern of symbols. Each tribe's veve is slightly different, consisting of complex symbols that identify their special Loa. During ritual conclaves, initiates dance under the supervision of a Bokor and a Mama Loa, or an head priestess. The use of totems or animal masks and markings was not uncommon in the original African ceremonies. Now, though, all but the oldest sects have abandoned this practice. Ritual objects used during the conclaves include the ritual gourd or asson, the ritual knife or kubasa.
That knife gives me the chills.
The ritual whip or fouet cash. And the ritual coffin or seke madule. These items are often optional, called for by the Mama Loa for specific magical rituals. The Mama Loa is the most powerful figure in any voodoo sect. Voodoo is a truly matriarchal system. Even the Bokor knows his power is limited. Mama Loa is the supreme woman. She looks butterflies, fireflies.
Firelight. No, Gabriel? What? I can't see. Gabriel, get in. Can't. It's too small for me. You must get in, Gabriel. It's not mine. Too small. Hide, Gabriel. Hide. No, let me out. Help.
Young man, the lecture is over.
Oh my God.
Gabriel's in one of the lecture halls at Tulane University. The seats are the fold-down kind. There's a PA speaker on the wall. There's a door on one side of the stage. Those doors lead to the projection booth, the podium, Partridge's throne. A projection screen dominates the front of the hall. That door exits the lecture hall. Gabriel scans the bulletin board. Greek night at the Alpha Psi Omega frat house. It looks like it took place sometime last spring. Gabriel scans the bulletin board. There's a notice for a lecture on investigative reporting techniques to be given by octogenarian Pulitzer Prize winner Laura Bo Dorian. Unfortunately, it's weeks away. By that time, Gabriel will have to have learned on his own. Gabriel scans the bulletin board. Need a ride to LA the last weekend in August.
I wouldn't go there if you paid me.
Gabriel scans the bulletin board. Work out of your home and make up to $2,000 a week in your spare time. Call 555-6789.
I actually called them once. You sell cat food over the phone.
Gabriel scans the bulletin board. Ha! We'll do algebra or biology homework for food.
Are you a student?
No. My name is Knight. Gabriel Knight.
Well, you have walked into my private office, Mr. Knight. I hope you have something worthwhile to do here. If you figure it out, let me know.
Exotic fish lend even more color to the cluttered office. The shelves behind Hartridge's desk are full of old books. Dr. Hartridge's office is crowded with masks, carved figures, and strange objects. Dr. Hartridge's desk is remarkably neat, especially considering the rest of the room. The squatter grins maliciously at Gabriel. Dr. Hartridge's... That mask is quite hideous. The carved stone head looks African and very old. Dr. Hartridge... It's Hartridge's file cabinet. An old globe sits atop Hartridge's file cabinet. The door leads back to the lecture hall. Dr. Hartridge is sharp-eyed and even sharper-tongued. When he condescends to look at Gabriel at all, it's with a dismissive glare.
Your lecture was terrific.
Oh, you think so? You were snoring so loud I didn't think you'd heard it.
You must travel a lot.
Yes, to Africa, mainly.
I suppose having all this voodoo stuff sitting around doesn't make you nervous at all.
It's voodoo stuff, and no. Why should it?
I'm very interested in voodoo myself right now.
How nice for you.
Hey, you've got quite a collection of goodies here.
My travels have been rewarding, yes.
Your lecture was... Mind if I pick your brain?
Not if it will get you out of my office.
What can you tell me about voodoo?
You already sat through my lecture on the subject, Mr. Knight. Perhaps next time you could stay awake and learn something.
What do you know about the voodoo murders?
I've read about them in the papers. I must admit, to some interest. But according to the newspapers, the voodoo aspect is faked, so I haven't really pursued it. You know how Americans, especially Hollywood, treats voodoo. I'm sure there are many so-called practitioners out there that have no idea what they're doing or the power they're playing with.
What can you tell me about New Orleans?
I find it interesting to see the occasional fragment of voodoo practices in the everyday culture of New Orleans.
Do you know anything about snakes?
I'm not a zoologist, Mr. Knight, but I know all I care to about reptiles.
What can you tell me about St. John's Eve?
It's June 23rd, the feast day of St. John the Baptist. The June 23rd has been a sacred day since the earliest times. Ancient sun worshippers used to roll a flaming wheel down a hill to celebrate the sun's descent on that day.
A burning wheel, huh? Do you have any idea what Cabri sans coeur means?
Cabri sans coeur. Yes, I do. It's a Haitian term, I believe. It's French, and literally translates as goat without horns.
As in a female goat?
No, as in a human sacrifice. Sacrifices in voodoo are usually of the animal variety. Chickens, wolves, goats. If the gods demand a goat without horns, it means a human being.
Do you know anything about Marie Laveau?
While I find the colloquial bastardizations of voodoo somewhat interesting from a sheerly intellectual point of view, there's not a lot of relation between people like Laveau and true voodoo practices.
Do you know anything about animal masks?
As I said in my lecture, which I assume you actually listened to, is that animal masks, totems, are used extensively in most African voodoo religions.
Tell me about bébés.
If you'd taken notes during my lecture, you wouldn't have to ask.
Have you ever heard of a Schottenjäger?
I'm afraid I can't help you there, Mr. Knight.
Tell me about yourself.
All right, Mr. Knight, I'm 35, a fully tenured professor at this university, as well as a fellow at Cambridge. My doctorate was obtained at Syracuse. Yes, Syracuse, in religious studies. I'm an agnostic, but I find human belief systems fascinating. I specialize in African religions because I grew up there. My father was a Protestant missionary. And I am heterosexual, when I practice sex at all, which isn't very often. Any other questions?
No.
Fine.
I'd really like to know more about you.
There have been several articles written about me, Mr. Knight, as well as blurbs on my book jackets. If you want a biography, read.
Tell me more about human sacrifice.
It's very rare. Most voodoo practices do not include human sacrifice as a matter of record, but it is theoretically possible if that's what the gods demand. For example, one of the chants I had translated for me from a Haitian ritual went like this. Mistress Erzulie, come and aid us. If a cock is demanded, we will give it. If a bull will suffice, behold it. But if a goat without horns is required for sacrifice, oh, where will we find one? Erzulie is the gentlest of Loa, so they call on her for mercy. But I have seen grown and powerful Hungan tremble before a possession by one of the more violent Loa, such as Papanilo. Clearly, they are afraid that something of the sort will be ordered, or that the Loa will simply take it for themselves.
Tell me more about human sacrifice.
I wouldn't dwell on it. Most voodoo sects probably haven't seen a human sacrifice for several generations.
Can you tell me anything about this pattern?
Wow. Interesting. Very interesting. Mind if I copy this?
Be my guest.
Great. I'll be right back. Here you go. You know, this is a fascinating baby. You must tell me all about its origin.
Actually, I was hoping you'd tell me. Can you figure out anything about it from the symbols?
Well, some. That's why I wanted a copy. I want to research the design myself. Each of the symbols in the baby represents something. A loa, a place. Where did you get this?
Have you heard of the voodoo murders?
No, you're kidding. Really? Then the voodoo is authentic. The newspapers are wrong. Boy, are they wrong.
You think this Veve is authentic, then?
Authentic? Mr. Knight, that's like asking if the Mona Lisa is a painting. Tell you what, I'll look into these symbols myself and see what I can learn about the sect that made this. I'll give you a call when I have more information. You are associated with the police, aren't you?
Absolutely. But I'm, undercover. You can contact me at the St. George's bookshop in the quarter.
All right. Now, I'd like to get started on this if you don't mind.
Is there anything you can tell me about the voodoo aspects of this photograph?
This is serious voodoo ritual. Nasty stuff.
In what way?
Let's see. I can't make out much detail from this photograph. Except for the corpse, of course. But the wound, the face, and what little I can see of the ritual paraphernalia. Reminds me of certain black voodoo practices. Very rare. I've never witnessed them myself, you understand.
Really? Interesting. Thanks.
Gabriel doesn't need to do that with the door.
Okay, thanks.
Good day, Mr. Knight.